So my name is David Ibbetson. I'm the Vice President General Manager of General Dynamics Mission Systems International, which is a big mouthful. What it really means is I'm responsible for mission systems businesses in Canada, the UK, Italy and the Middle East. I think the workplace project was probably first of all, I've got more visibility of it, so I'm probably more qualified to comment on it, but just based on the interaction that I had with the guys from Mission Systems who were part of the course, I think they got a lot out of that, and I got a lot out of that. I got challenged by these guys. They tested my own thinking, and they tested the way that we do business by bringing a different sort of perspective to the table, and caused me to think differently about how I was, fulfill my role as a leader in business. But also I think it kind of challenged them, because it took the learning away from an academic, intellectually sensible point of view to, like, okay, now how do you apply that for real in a business context, and the imperfections and sort of when life gets in the way come to the surface, and then you got to think your way through that, which is a pretty typical environment when you're trying to do anything complicated, and it's never perfect. The plans always fall apart at the first contact with the enemy, and you got to be able to rethink and refocus and maintain a focus on the outcome. And I think that workplace project gave our participants certainly that kind of exposure, and sort of made things real, if you like. What we do is extremely complicated, and it's in an industry that is a very complicated industry. It's complex in the sense that it's not in some ways it's a managed industry. We provide service to the government. The government imposes, rightfully so, a lot of constraints on how taxpayers' dollars get spent, and has, if you like, governance requirements that pertain to transparency and competition and all that kind of good stuff. And in some ways that implies and imposes a degree of complexity that is present in our business that isn't present in other businesses. So that's kind of issue one. Issue two is the life cycle of projects that we deal with, particularly when we talk about complicated projects, complex large-scale projects, building warships or fighter aircraft or aircraft mission systems or things of that nature, where the life cycle of the project from its genesis as an idea in government to fulfillment can be 10 or 20 years. In any individual's career, you don't get to do that too many times just because of the duration of the contracts. So it's really hard to get people propelled up learning curves. It kind of takes a career to get really up the learning curve, and not many people actually do a cradle to grave large-scale defence procurement project more than once. Most of the people that we come across as we recruit externally will maybe have done a part of one project at some point in their career, and the knowledge and skill and capability and experience necessary to successfully deliver on these types of extremely complicated programs in some ways takes a lifetime to accrue. So we have to find a way to try to impart that knowledge, that skill and judgment into people who inherently will not be equipped with the experience to really do what we need them to do. And if you then sort of localize that in a Canadian context, it's potentially even more important, because Canada doesn't have a huge equipment budget and can't necessarily afford to resource level and maintain its organic industrial capability with its domestic spend profile. The US can do that and manages that fairly effectively. Canada doesn't have the budget to do that, so programs tend to come in large cycles. There's a feeding frenzy to go win these programs. The winner is then successfully entrenched in a franchise for a number of years. The losers aren't, and so there's this tendency for large scale cycles in the business that we kind of have to deal with in training and development, in like how we impart expertise into our staff is kind of core with how you can then bid and successfully win and then deliver on those types of programs. Really, I'll start with me, actually. I mean, it's benefited me in my participation with the program on the panels, because I get to listen to the discussions and the debates, and I get to hear my customers speak through a very different lens to the way that I would normally interact with D&D or PSPC personnel. And I think the same is probably even well, not probably, definitely more true for participants on the course. We get to understand the government's perspective on how procurement is planned and managed, and some of the difficulties from our customers' side, much more so than I think we ever would do by just participating in a program delivery. And I think that's probably the most significant benefit that I think industry would get out of this is getting a much deeper understanding of our customers' problem space and how the world affects how decisions are made in government and how the government process is applied. And I think that helps us understand our customer and therefore be a better supplier. The expertise that the participants on the course bring to the table, I think is again very important, and it's all about building perspective. And then the fact that the course is structured around complex procurement, like this isn't PMBOK, project management body of knowledge training. It's not teaching rote application of process. It's teaching maturity and perspective and business thinking on how to deliver what are essentially extremely complicated human enterprises, and try to kind of contextualize that. If you think the task of building a team of humans to do anything is complicated if they have the same agenda and the same set of outcomes and intentions in mind. As soon as you scale that up a little bit and you say, well, now we've got different agendas because we have customers and suppliers and we have budgets and schedules and priorities and non-priorities, and so obviously these things occasionally conflict, then the task of building a several hundred person team spanning multiple legal entities, all of whom have competed for a position to play in and therefore are potentially in, like a little bit of cost and schedule duress when the enterprise starts off. Building that team across, again, multiple stakeholders is an extremely complicated task. Mm-hmm. And I think this course recognises that and is specifically intentioned to not just garner those skills in industry, but also to build that skill set within government and help government understand how to procure extremely complicated systems. And therefore I think what Canada is doing effectively, if this continues and if we get the right participation, is building a future capability set among leaders in both industry and government who in the future will be smarter and better equipped to deliver on the types of complex programs that Canada needs.